You're listening to the IMT Show with Mike Sims. Now here is your host.
I'm pleased today to have Shani as part of the TheArtBard as a guest on the IMT Show. And welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's going to be a fun conversation, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So, hi, I'm Shani. I run the TheArtBard, and it's sort of a production studio, currently a production studio of one, and I'm a visual storyteller. I haven't always been. I kind of pivoted into it with 2020, so I'm a little new to the field, but I'm really excited to be able to help folks tell their stories visually the way that I've been able to do with my own work.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting.
That sounds like it. It's definitely, especially authors, they need a lot of tools to get things out there. And
yeah,
so,
go for it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, with better technology being so accessible, it really levels the playing field for more points of views and different stories to be told. And with more stories comes better empathy and understanding of other people. So I definitely see a new world and how we communicate with each other and see different realities through accessible technology. That's really exciting to me.
Yeah, that sounds logical to me. It's so it's the TheArtBard, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you do with that exactly? What's
Sure. The TheArtBard does visual storytelling through picture books. So imagine like Kidlit, that's picture book, comic books, picture books, graphic novels, those are picture books. But the kind of skills that are required for those projects can really translate easily into storyboarding. So I also do pre-production services for films, animations,
Nice.
Game design, any time that you need a plot visually mapped out through storyboards, the same skills can be applied. So I do picture books and storyboards.
And obviously, since the film industry uses this quite a bit, it's an important piece to getting everybody on board, I guess, on the same page, so to speak.
Absolutely. And to help with budget, to even get grants or to pitch a script, right? What helps script writers set themselves apart is to have these visual aids to invest in their own scripts, show that they're investing in their scripts by getting the visual aids that translate what their scripts say visually in like a blink of an eye, right? Because the people that they're pitching to, they're really busy, right? So you really want to translate the mood, the feel of certain scenes as quick as you can to constituents who will write you a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is somebody being handed a 300-page script, I mean, what's the chances of everybody reading it,
Right.
So
that would be a 300-minute movie.
So it's, so you're telling it visually and so you're catering to, to self and indie publishers and how's that response going with that?
It's not really my intention to target the self and indie publishers, but that seems to be what everybody's doing. I mean, with 2020, people are writing more books, first-time writers, right? Or they're developing their first scripts and whatnot. So that market is easily accessible. So if there's any other artists listening right now, a great way to break into the industry is to cut your teeth on some indie publishers or self-publishers. They're a bit more accessible, they're a bit more trusting, and honestly, if you provide value, if you can help folks, they can help you too.
And
so
and there's quite a bit of them, I imagine. It's
most certainly.
Yeah, especially with all the tools and everything. I've heard figures like 1.2 million books are published every year in English.
So, is that all?
And there's a lot of indie, in there. Even the big fives are starting to compete with this now.
Hmm.
And Barnes and Noble's even starting to publish indie publishers now. So,
Absolutely. Amazon print on demand.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all becoming accessible, right? If you think about all the voices being thrown into the void, just listen to me, listen to my truths.
Right.
It's jarring to know that
Oh,
everybody has their truth to tell.
it's I know for example, like in the audio industry, I had a guy that he's famous in Latin America with TV commercials and movies,
Hmm.
dubbing them, and
Hmm.
he wanted to do my book Southern Cross into Spanish, and did a
Hmm.
great job. And he ended up loving it so much he started his own audio company, and now
Awesome.
has like 12 people working for him and done 2 million words, and he's working with publishers. And so
That's amazing.
there's a lot of opportunity in the book industry still. It's and I think this is definitely a good platform that you have here.
Absolutely. And I was talking to a writer a couple months ago, and he was saying that, gee, I just hate writing. I really don't know why I want to be a writer. I don't like the process, but I just want to be heard. I want to be an authority figure in some way, and a book looks like that. And I'm like, well, you don't need to write to be involved in books. There's so many other things that you could be doing, right? And my college professor also mentioned something like that. If you're tackling a tough subject, the best way for you to understand it is to just find one piece of it that you can expand on, right? You don't need to understand the whole thing, but just start looking and building your understanding through the one thing that you do understand, right? And that
Right.
can be said for anything. Just find that entry point.
So what is the work that you've been done previously?
So since I pivoted into TheArtBard, my work has been centered around my own graphic novel. So it's been a lot of developing that and understanding how the industry works around comics. It's mostly been a lot of research and homework. My stuff, it's all traditional until recently because I was able to afford the Cintiq, right, with the pandemic
Right.
unemployment money, right? So get money through that, start investing in your equipment.
Wow.
That seems strategic to me. So my work with the graphic novel, though it does span years, it's not really something that is internet ready yet. But recently I've been developing a lot of holiday cards. Um,
Hmm.
that's the business of being an artist, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But while you're waiting for that big break, it's important to think of your creativity and whatever you're creating as stuff that you can lease out. It's intellectual property. And so I've
Right.
just been working on that to have a plan B while I'm working on the graphic novel too.
Nice.
Yeah,
So is that part of the you have something called a simple sidekick kick method?
right. Simple sidekick method. There's a process in my research into all of what it takes to publish comics, right? Um, Indie publishing specifically, but I guess with any kind of product, right? The process to creating comic, you start with a script, simple sidekick solution. That's an acronym, right? SIMPLE. And each letter stands for something. So S would be the script or the story development, everything that you make with a comic. And since my work is developing comics, this is important. It all starts with the story. And then after the story, you got to integrate that into a script, a comic treated script, which is important. You have to translate what your story is to the artist, and you have to trust that they're not going to waste your time and your money
Right.
in developing what you're saying visually, right? So you have to integrate the story into a script. That's the I. M is marketing, and marketing should be happening all the time.
Right.
As soon as you have an idea that you know that you want to launch as a product, you should start marketing. And that's really intimidating to people, but marketing is really just social media. I mean, that's how you and I got to be talking, right?
Right.
We just connected on LinkedIn. Um, so marketing, and then P would be the pre-production and regular production, right? So you need to design the characters and the environment and their props, and then you have to do the layout of the pages and line it out, color it in, digitize it, edit it. People think comic production or storybook production, picture book production, and they think it's just the art, right? They see in their mind it's the artist painting, and then that's it. But there's a lot of pre-work that goes into that, right? So there's pre-production, and that would be the character design and environment design. And then after your comic is produced, right, you have all the artwork there, it's time to launch. Launching is something that you plan for, and that's probably 6 to 12 months out from when you start the project, right? So there's a whole timeline to this. And then you need to evaluate how you're doing in the market, what your next steps will be. And so that whole arc of mini steps, they all take place in the framework of the simple sidekick solution or method. Simple sidekick method.
So what's the difference in a script and a comic treated script?
There are a number of different kinds of scripts, and depending on what you're going for, like what kind of script you want, that will be a script treatment. So you have your play scripts, right? Screenwrite treatment. You have your film scripts. You have your manuscripts for your books, and then you have your comic scripts. And your comic scripts are going to be different from the rest of the scripts because there's panel designations, there's page designations, there's word bubbles. So all that stuff, when you're talking about a comic, it engages all the senses, right? And it plays on how time is perceived. And that perception needs to be accounted for. And that's where the page number and the panel designations come in. It's just telling, it's how you pace the story.
Yeah, I know from pitching my my books, and I've got some producers that are working on it and have written some pitch scripts, and you read them out, and it's written visually, you know, with these bracketed stuff, fade in, fade out. He walked in, he did this, and you know, and then some dialogue, you know, and and I guess that's what they're used to, but seeing a drawn out panel, I think gives a more literal, deliberate, this is what it is, you know, and not leaving it to everybody's imagination to plug in what they think it is, you know, which I think is a lot more useful.
Absolutely. That's the difference between a script and a storyboard. And that's why storyboards are so valuable. You show exactly what you're talking about. No confusion.
Right. So this, so 2020 has been a pivotal year for you, I suppose, in this.
Absolutely. I started this year as an ecological landscaper. I got my degree in agriculture and agribusiness and ecological agriculture, how to work with the land in a way that doesn't deplete it, right? So thinking about the future as you're growing food. And that was something that it still is something that I'm super passionate about. But people think that landscaping, and I was doing ecological landscaping, they think that winter is supposed to be the quiet months where nothing happens. And that's not true, but tell the market that they just weren't buying at that time any services. So the winter was hard on us, and then COVID hit right after that, right? So the business didn't really survive.
Right.
So I was, you know, I didn't have a job. I didn't have the money. I was waiting on unemployment, and I lost the house or where I was living. I was living in a boat that time, and that was pretty fun. That's its whole story.
Okay.
But since I didn't have a vehicle to bring me to the farms that I could absolutely run if I had the chance, I had to look at my assets again, and all I had is this computer that I'm talking to you on. And so I need a job from home. And I figured, why not just jump straight into TheArtBard? I love art. I did art back in college for just like the last semester. And it gave me a taste of what could be a different kind of lifestyle for me. And so I didn't really think that that would be the case, that would actually be my lifestyle, until I lost my job. And it's interesting how that comes full circle. So since April, May, June, whatever, in between being houseless and getting a house, I've been developing TheArtBard. And I pivoted into my passion. So 2020, it's been hard in a lot of ways, but it's also been an opportunity. Change is always going to happen. How you react to change how I react to change personally.
Exactly.
That's one thing that I have complete control over.
So it sounded like it had emancipated you into a very, very possible big opportunity here.
Absolutely. Um, how you react to change is important. Investing in yourself is important too. You know, you can be comfortably passive. You could also chase what you want and design the life that you want. And there was something really freeing about being houseless for a while. You know, of
Right.
course I was couch surfing, but like it's a phoenix fire. What are you going to do when everything kind of disappears? You're going to start anew.
Right. It's an opportunity to change and to become something.
Absolutely.
That makes all the sense in the world to me.
Oh, thanks.
It does. I mean, I've been there. I mean, I've lost everything in my life at one time. So, you know, and everything changed, and I'm in a much better position than I was.
Hmm.
So I fully understand that.
It's amazing the versions of yourself that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah. It's almost like you're looking at a whole different life previously.
Absolutely.
So so what's the I guess is what's the advantages of a business mindset in this?
As an artist, or I work with writers too,
Being
right? So
creative,
as
yeah.
any kind of creative, if if you think of what you do, your creativity through the business mindset, you're miles ahead of all the other creatives who think, I create something, I throw it out there, give me millions, right?
Right.
In our culture, when we grow up, if you have an artist kid, you throw them a coloring book, say, have fun. You have a writer kid, you give them a notebook, have fun. You, people don't really take those passions, those inclinations seriously enough to be like, you're a writer, you're an artist. I'm gonna put you in a business class and we're gonna make that possible for you, right? It's not as empowering. And so it becomes passion pursuits, but also passively, right? Not something that people themselves will take seriously. And so when you start thinking of your creativity as intellectual property, everything that you write, everything that you draw, that can be leased out. You can make money on it. You know, it's just like how we mine for minerals or any of that. You're mining yourself for creativity. You can sell that.
Hmm.
So it's just a different way of thinking about what you have to offer to the world. So many creatives get bogged down and depressed because they feel like they have to live this double life. And they don't. They absolutely don't. The world
Right.
is full of stories. Look at any advertising billboard and you see an artist behind that. You know, look at any commercial and that was a writer. It blows my mind that people don't see that value in themselves. And I really wish they would. And then learn some business skills and live the life that you want to live.
Right.
Yeah.
People, I guess tend to get they don't like to get out of their comfort zone and experience new things, or they're afraid that somebody's going to make fun of them or rejection or whatever. And in my experience, is like the key word for me has always been persistence.
Mm-hmm.
Persistence beats everything, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen educated people. I've seen all types of people, talented people, but only the people that are persistent make it.
And they're experimenting with it, right? I'm reading Cal Newport's So Good They Can't Ignore You, right?
Hmm.
And starts off with the premise that you can't have a dream job because to have a dream job, you have to know what your dream is. And that's an argument that you can't make because you're finite in an infinite world, right? You'll never know what your dream job is until you're dead. Then you can
Right.
look back and be like, oh, that was my dream job.
Right.
But if you have an expectation, you're probably going to miss the mark that you have internally for what you actually want because there's probably not a job that exists that is your dream job. You have to make that because it's unique to you.
Right.
Yeah. But all the things that you mentioned before about somebody's not going to like what I do, I'm going to get rejected, I'm going to fail, that's all going to happen no matter what you do, whether you stay stagnant, with who you are, somebody doesn't like you. Whether you go out and try something new, you're probably going to fail. Whether you talk to somebody else, you're probably going to get rejected. But what are your options?
Yeah.
To do nothing?
Yeah. Well, that's, I've had writers, they'll ask me, well, I'm afraid that, my novel is going to, it's going to be terrible. There's going to be mistakes in it people are going to see. And I was like, there are mistakes in the most classic books that you can read. Robin Crusoe had numerous mistakes in it. And, they all had mistakes and they all had poor reviews.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give it a chance. There's a reader for every writer. And I think, the service that you're offering is it's going to booster rocket that for sure.
If you're at the place where somebody is noticing the mistakes in your writing or in your art or any of that, congratulations. Somebody's noticing your work. That's great. Right. There's no such thing as bad press. You got it.
Yeah. I mean, I had one lady that just attacked one of my books really bad. And I said, well, and so I contacted her. I said, well, tell me about it. Talk to me. And she ended up partially editing it for me. And
sick.
So I revised it and she was happy. And then threw some good reviews, so, not everything's negative, it can be turned.
Mm-hmm.
It's the flip side of the same coin. Yeah.
Right. It's like that Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow, he talks to the Navy commander or whatever, and he's like, "You're the worst pirate I've ever heard of, but you have heard of me."
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's the bottom line. You gotta put it out there and not worry about it. It's you, and and chances are there's a lot of other people like you, and they're gonna like it.
Right.
It's like anything. If you're like, even being like the president of the United States, half the people are gonna hate you, so you can't worry about it.
But somebody voted for you.
So you gotta think that there is people out there for you. So it's so your website is TheArtBard.com, and and it's got all the information about everything in there. Is there anything that you in storyboarding like this, is there anything that is going to bring maybe Hollywood to people in respects, if they do something like this and they start pushing towards film?
Would storyboards get them closer to Hollywood?
Yeah.
So if that's your goal, storyboards can help you get there. Absolutely. Hollywood, I've heard from the people that I talk to, and they're in Hollywood too. I'm trying to break into the industry. These folks are telling me that Hollywood is such a place that you have to be in to get really connected with the people that you want to get connected to. But I'm also hearing that that's not the case, right? Because we have the internet and we can just Zoom chat with people, right? So that makes things easier. So it really depends on what your services are. If you're production crew, you're going to need to be in Hollywood. But if you're a writer, you can probably write from Moscow, whatever. I understand why people want to go into Hollywood. I really hope that they don't limit themselves with just that one option. I had a guy approach me and he's like, do the artwork for my submission of my comic into Dark Horse. Great, let's hear your comic. Let's see what's going on. He was so dead set on Dark Horse though. That's a 1 in 1 chance, right? You might get picked up by this one person or this one company, but there's so many other production studios that you could be shopping your work around. So I would advise, if your goal is to break into Hollywood, storyboards can get you there, can definitely help you get there. Don't let that be your only goal.
So it's mostly is a great tool for authors, particularly because they so that they can maybe advertise their stuff around, and because everything is visual on social media, particularly with advertisements. So there's a lot of possible venues. Because one of the things like I do is I make book trailers, video trailers for authors sometimes, and they and that helps out a little bit, because getting people to read printed materials, it's with a 5% readership is kind of tough. But one of the things I've noticed in talking to people is I say, do you read books? And they, oh yeah, I said, well, what's your favorite books? I said, well, I got to have everything that's Stephen King. And I said, well, have you read all his books? Oh no, there's a bunch of them I haven't read yet. But anytime he publishes one, I got to have it.
Mm-hmm.
So you realize that you're having to sell yourself as much or more than the book itself. And you look at Stephen King's books, it's his name, King, in big letters, and the title is in little letters underneath it. And that should say a lot for authors. So anything that's visual, I think is a good thing.
Absolutely. As creatives, writers, artists, any of that, your main export is your personality. And we're seeing that trend more and more with any kind of field. Everybody's going to social media to get their own following because there's power in the numbers. I've read that 10,000 followers is the number that you need to get a good conversion of followers to buyers, right? And whatever that conversion is, that's product dependent.
Mm-hmm.
But 10,000's a strong one. So with that as a guidepost, a lot of service providers and personalities are going for social media. Creatives, we export our personalities and our creativity. So every time that you create something, whether you're writing something or you're drawing something, that's what you put onto social media. You put your opinions onto social media, your thoughts onto social media. People aren't, one of the things that makes Stephen King and names like him so hot is that there's a distance between what he does and his readership, his followers, right? So anytime that you can play that game of I am distant, but you can also contact me, fans are going to appreciate that, you know? So you're just kind of playing into that. Here, look at my life a little bit, but also you can't touch me.
Right. Right. And I think it's, definitely, particularly with networking, with people is important. And being prepared, for opportunities that come. And I think this is another big tool for authors, especially to prepare for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Authors, particularly, they write and they have this book and they think, let me just make a Facebook post and money will be coming in. I need a book agent because they're going to get me the clients that I need or the publishers that I need, and then they can negotiate everything. But the number one thing that publishing houses are looking for is whether the author will take the initiative to push their own book, right? And one way that they gauge that is the social media following. How active are you on social media that you are pushing your book? Are you salesy or are you a personality? Are you human? We're on the internet and we're trying to be connected. And in trying to be, we're less connected. So people are really thirsty for that connection. Right. So by providing that personality online, you are feeding into that connectivity thirst. And that's attractive to publishers to see that somebody cares enough about their own work that they're going to put in the legwork, the busy work to get their name out there. Otherwise, it's the publisher who's doing all the heavy lifting and make the case that you're worth it.
Right. And that's very sage advice for any author that's trying to get there, particularly, with the big five. And there's a lot of considerations in the big five as well, because they end up owning everything and they control everything.
Right.
So it's not always the best advantage. I've had agents, and I've had agents that have lost me deals. So, it's it's not always the crescendo of accomplishment when you get certain people or certain things. It's what you do. If it's to be, it's up to me type of thing is what I've learned. But tell me if there's anything that you can expound upon that I haven't covered that you would like to talk about.
I would say if you're serious about, and I'm talking to my fellow creatives, if you're serious about getting your name out there and living the life of creativity that you want, social media is going to be the key to that. And so there are certain aspects to marketing and social media that you should absolutely Google. I made a post on this on LinkedIn. Google ad funnels, Google marketing campaigns, Google order bumps. Oh, I had a couple more and I forgot. Oh, KPIs, your marketing KPIs. And there was one more, and I'm sure I'll get to that. But that aside, be as consistent on social media as you can be. I work with creatives, and if I can speak selfishly, the more creatives out there who are doing their work successfully, the better for me, right? So I'm giving you good advice because it works out in my favor. The more active and consistent that you are on social media, specifically LinkedIn, because people on LinkedIn, they're there to do business. People on Facebook, they're there to creep on their exes. People everywhere else, they're there to be distracted, right? So go on to LinkedIn, make those relationships with people, connect with them. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Shani O on LinkedIn. And then post consistently. And that's its own skill. But if you can do that, then that means that people are going to recognize your name, and the conversations that you want to get started will get started quicker. Eventually, you'll get an organic lead, an organic audience growth, and that's really what you want. So I just really encourage you all out there to be less passive about your creativity and actively engage with the people that you want to talk to. It's a get what you give kind of game.
Fantastic. Yeah, very good advice.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you interviewing here. It's definitely been enlightening for me.
Thank you, Mike. That's sweet. I really appreciate the opportunity. As we speak, you're my the first interview that I've done, but I've been asked to do a few more, and so this has been a really great learning experience for me. I appreciate the conversation and the opportunity.
Well, hopefully, we'll get you some more clients and people interested in expand this. It's TheArtBard.com is the website, and it will be on the ticker and the descriptions as well on the podcast. Yeah, I really appreciate you being on here.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time, and what an engaging conversation.
Yes,
I look forward to chatting with all y'all out there. Until then, take it easy. Happy New Year's. And here's a healthy, better 2021. We can do this, y'all.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on here, and hope to see you again on here.
You got it. Whenever.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the IMT show with Mike Sims. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The IMT show is an opinion show and not to be taken as serious personal, legal, tax or financial advice. It is meant as entertainment only. IMT show, Mazarov for Mike Sims is not responsible for ad content. For more information on show schedules and content, visit www.mazarov.net/IMT.